The Criminal Code of Canada, Article 788, Commencement of Proceedings. Proceedings under this part shall be commenced by laying an information in Form 2. 789. Formalities of information. In proceedings to which this part applies, an information shall be in writing and under oath, and may charge more than one offense or relate to more than one matter of complaint. But where more than one offense is charged, or the information relates to more than one matter of complaint, each offense or matter of complaint, as the case may be, shall be set out in a separate count. In the criminal code, when they use summary convictions process, the summary process, it starts off by saying that this is when the police lays an information. When they try to lay criminal charges on you and he goes and he swears an oath, well, it says that the information that is laid by a person. Now notice that. Well, we know that police officers are considered legal persons. And it says that in 788, the start of criminal charges is done by an oath, a declaration, by the police officer describing the charges that he saw, that he witnessed. The Criminal Code of Canada, offender. Offender means a person who has been determined by a court to be guilty of an offense, whether on acceptance of a plea of guilty or on a finding of guilt. So when you receive that paperwork, usually it says that Her Majesty is charging you and Her Majesty is summoning you to court. Now, it was a police officer usually who made that summons, that declaration against you. And in that declaration, you can be charged with more than one offense on that summons. So they can add 3 or 4 or 5 of the articles of the criminal code, and then they'll call you down to court and say, come on down to court. Now in common law, if you look at the word summons, it doesn't really create an obligation. Summons is like an invitation. It's like, well, we are calling you to court. Are you willing to come? Are you coming or not? You have to be careful because, like I said, there's a thought that is going around out there that says, well, a summons is an invitation and you don't have to listen to that summons. And unfortunately, those people who fall under that thinking, when they try and operate that way, they'll find out very quickly, ooh, it looks like there was some conditions attached to that summons because I didn't respond to it, and now it looks like I'm in more trouble. So a summons, yeah, it's for a legal person. And yeah, really, there's no obligation on it if you know how to operate this properly. But it is an invitation. However, they attach conditions to that invitation. And they say this. They say, come now to the summary conviction court. Come now to court, or we'll put a warrant. We'll put a warrant out for your arrest, and then we'll force you to come. So, but remember, your legal person, he can establish lawful excuse. You, as a man or a woman, can establish lawful excuse. And how you do that is by discharging the summons. That's how you have to do it. You can't just say, I don't accept your invitation. You have to discharge the summons through a proper operation of law. In the Criminal Code of Canada, it presents you the article which shows you the proper operation of law. Criminal Code of Canada, Article 794. No need to negative, exception, etc. No exception, exemption, proviso, excuse, or qualification prescribed by law is required to be set out or negatived, as the case may be, in an information. So you see that, in an information. Burden of proof of proving exemption or exception. The burden of proving that an exception, exemption, proviso, excuse, or qualification prescribed by law operates in favor of the defendant is on the defendant, and the prosecutor is not required, except by way of rebuttal, to prove that the exception, exemption, proviso, excuse, or qualification does not operate in favor of the defendant, whether or not it is set out in the information. In Article 794 of the Criminal Code of Canada, it talks about an exception, an exemption, an excuse, and a qualification. A qualification. as to why you don't have to be charged, as to why you shouldn't respond to the summons, as to why there's no obligation upon you to be part of this whole situation that they have created legally. The police, when they write the information, as you've seen in the other codes, when they lay the information against you or against the person, they're under no obligation to reveal any type of exemption or excuse that you could use to escape from all this. They have no obligation to reveal it. You have to prove that there is one. You have to prove that there is one. Now notice what can prove that you have no obligation. If there's some type of qualification, well, you qualify not to be recognized as a legal person. And you have an excuse because you don't have to be recognized as a legal person. And there's an exception from you being charged under the criminal code because it only applies to legal persons. If the code that they're using against you is applying for legal persons. If you've robbed someone or beaten someone up, you're not going to get away with that. You've hurt a man. You're going to suffer your consequences. And good for you. Next time don't do it. But nevertheless, if there's if the exemption too for the legal person. So you can establish your lawful excuse to any charge that they bring against you by simply invoking the right to say, listen, I have no obligation to be a legal person. What you're placing on me, it only applies to legal persons. Therefore, I have a lawful excuse, and I am invoking it. Now, the codes that you need to invoke your lawful excuse, hopefully by now you know them and you are aware of them. The codes that are in the Charter of Canadian Rights and Freedoms, such as Article 26 and Articles 7 through 10, especially Article 10. And then also in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 1 states that every human being is born free. Article 6 states that we are not under obligation to be recognized as a legal person. Article 21 states that we don't have to be in servitude to this government or to stand with this government. So there's many codes you can invoke to produce your lawful excuse not to be recognized as a legal person. But it's up to you. So whenever you receive a criminal charge against you, or summary conviction charge against you, you go to Article 794 right away. If you haven't already sought relief from the Crown and are not living above this, you go right away to Article 794 and you start drawing out those rights that show them, listen, this is not applicable to me because I'm not considered a legal person. I don't accept those rights. I don't stand under those rights. This operation of law is applicable only specifically to criminal charges. Summary convictions, criminal charges. Now, there's a lot of people that try a lot of different operations. They get into court and they say, well, there's been no damaged party here. Show me the damaged party. The Queen is a fiction, therefore I'm not obligated, and so on and so on. They try all types of arguments. You don't need to do all that. You just need to invoke Article 794. And hopefully by after having watched these videos, you know what's going on the street now. You know how they're operating upon you. You know how they're binding up your legal person, or binding up your humanity through your legal person, and you'll be able to shake that off and defend yourself. So you just have to invoke Article 794. Use your exemption, use your exception, use the qualification, qualify it to them that, hey, I'm a human being. I'm a man and woman with intrinsic rights. And I don't have to accept what you're trying to offer me, these certain duties and these certain limited rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms. Article 1. All human beings, all of us, are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience, and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. That's the first article of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 6. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms, Article 21. Everyone has the right to partake in the government of his country, directly or through freely chosen representatives. In the criminal code, there's very many articles, and all the articles that dealing with stealing, and murder and harming another individual or another human being and cheating, those apply to man. They apply to everyone without an option for a lawful excuse. No option there. You can't get your exception, an excuse, to get out of it if you harm someone. And you shouldn't, because common law teaches us that we should love one another in brotherly love, not take knives and guns and hurt one another. So just remember that. You can use Article 794 on anything except for those types of actions.